Hello, and welcome to today's webcast, Innovating the Enterprise App Ecosystem, Key Strategies for Success, brought to you by Insight. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. This webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenter. The webcast console you are looking at can be completely customized. You can resize or move any of the windows that you have open. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your question. All questions from this webcast will be captured and our speaker will answer throughout the presentation. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please visit the webcast help guide by clicking on the question mark icon below the presentation window. The help guide covers common technical issues. At this time, I'll turn over this presentation to our speaker, Mark Candelora.
Thank you. Hello. So today we'll be going over innovating applications and how we can create innovative environments for our technical teams and enterprise applications. So first we'll start with the strategic insights about app innovation, and then looking at how we can leverage cutting edge technologies to innovate and develop applications for the future. Next, we'll talk about real-world examples and where Insight has worked with our clients to innovate and deliver these new innovations and technologies. And then finally, we'll end with real-world next steps where you can take the learnings from this presentation. So starting with me, my name is Mark Candelora, and I'm a senior manager within our portfolio team. I'm aligned with our modern applications capability and practice. So we'll start with impactful innovation, and we'll really look at setting the stage for why we need to look at innovation and how we can get there at a very high level. So to start, we'll frame it in a hypothesis, right? So in order to innovate, an organization needs to first modernize its business and technology estate, right? So currently today, a large portion of enterprises have lots of legacy technology that are blocking their attempts at innovation. So in order to do that, in order to really get to an innovative state, we need to bring our technology and our processes and teammates and organizational structure up to a modern disposition. And that way we can start to put in place a culture of learning and really get to drive towards innovation. And this is a journey overall, right? This is not something that can be done over a short period of time. And then, we've reached our goal of being innovative, great, and we can move on. This is a constant push that organizations need to do in order to stay relevant in the economy today. So at a high level, again, we're looking at, in terms of the overall process that innovation goes through, the starting point, and part of what I talked about earlier, is the enabling stage, where new innovations and new ideas need to be enabled in order to ultimately be realized, right? And so a lot of that revolves around putting in place a culture of innovation, making sure that innovation is supported, that we're addressing all of the blockers, be they technical or process oriented or organizational, in order to drive towards innovation. We need to put together a strategy to make sure that our innovation isn't just the Wild West, right? We're not trying to create new innovations in any area. We want to focus our innovations on areas that our business can really take advantage of, right? And so part of that is identifying what our superpowers are as our organization, and we want to make sure that then we're focusing our investment and our ideas on those areas, right? We want to innovate and have activities and things that are sponsored at our highest levels by leadership, in order to make sure that we're generating the right ideas, doing the right things that can, again, sponsor and cultivate that culture of innovation. The next stage here is that we want to make sure that we're proving out our ideas ahead of time, and we don't want to spin up too much investment around an idea that may seem good, but is unable to scale appropriately, is technically infeasible, or really doesn't have the kind of usefulness that we imagine within the market. Our customers are the path of progress is leading in a different direction, for example, and so new innovations in a certain area may not just be welcomed by customers. The next stage here is validation, and this is where we want to make sure that ultimately an idea may be a good idea, may be technically feasible, may have usefulness in the industry, in the market, but we're not able to make money off of it. And that may be due to a number of different reasons, but ultimately we want to start very small there and limit the investment in our innovations so that until we're able to validate that, yes, this technology, this new feature, this new idea is able to be beneficial to our organization in the way that we want. And then scaling up our innovations and our new technologies, we want to make sure that we're not over or under meeting our demand, right? So it's very easy to overestimate the amount of impact that a new feature is going to have within our application, or even a new application is going to have within the marketplace. And so we want to make sure that we're able to measure that potential demand and scale just in time to meet that demand as needed. And then as we refine, we're looking to iterate on those ideas and make sure that we're able to, again, make our new innovations more and more efficient and drive down the cost of using that innovation over time. So as we went through that, now I want to take us through a couple of new technologies. Some of them are everybody knows about, and that, the first one being the cloud, and then the next one being AI. And we're going to look to see what kind of correlations we can see between adoption of cloud and the adoption of AI, and how that might impact the way that we view our organizational maturity around these two areas. So the first is, again, in cloud, we have this sort of concept of cloud 1.0, cloud 2.0, cloud 3.0. Now, cloud 1.0 is really about kind of workload replacement, right? It's infrastructure in the cloud. It's and it's really kind of a drop-in replacement for the things that organizations are doing today, right? So when we look at our technology stack, we have our network security infrastructure, VMs and databases and things like that. And really what we're doing in cloud 1.0 is just dropping in the cloud into these areas without too much transformation, right? And this is a really good starting point for organizations, but if we're stopping there, it's really missing the key benefit of moving to the cloud, right? And so what we see next is cloud 2.0, where applications that we're taking the cloud and we're going native, right? So we're no longer looking at developing applications on virtual machines and setting up infrastructure in the way that it was done in 1.0. We're really taking that to the opposite extreme, and we're saying, okay, app developers, this is all you, right? So this is all now your responsibility, and you're going to have to handle all of the application architecture from top to bottom. So that means setting up all the VNets and the security, firewalls, the routing, and making sure that you have the right kind of scale for your applications, so that then you're able to do, once you take care of all of those things, then you're finally able to write the application code and deliver value to the business. And that's a significant challenge for organizations where they have multiple application teams that are doing the same thing over and over again and solving these same challenges in different ways, right? And so now suddenly support becomes very painful and difficult to do. And the organizations, the path of progress for these organizations in terms of how they're able to effectively deliver new innovations to their lines of business or to the enterprise really starts to slow down pretty dramatically. And so when we shift to cloud 3.0, what we end up seeing is a large organizational transformation in terms of the way that we're now enabling application teams to be able to develop their applications, right? So this is really more about enablement and taking the kinds of platforms that we're developing our applications on and looking at them as a product, right? And products have a certain amount of value that we're trying to cultivate over time. and improve and continually improve that story and the value that's being provided to our customers. And in this case, the platforms are maybe it's the public cloud, but maybe it's a private cloud, maybe it's your on-prem platform, where now you're taking those platforms and you're looking at them as a product, and the customers of those products are your internal development teams and your internal lines of business that then are using those platforms to deliver value to the rest of the organization or to their external customers. And so some of the benefits that we see here are that the challenges that we're facing from a platform perspective, the handling of all of the things that frankly app developers are not really good at: security, networking, firewalls and infrastructure, and things like that, storage, observability. All of those things are handled in different centers of excellence that offer those kinds of capabilities as products to the application teams. And so what that ends up doing then is allowing those application teams to heads down focus on solving the business problems that are being asked of them without having to worry too much about the underlying platforms and how the difference in how they're gonna operate. Now, in this model here, what we're actually showing is a multi-cloud platform where you can have different cloud platforms as well as different private cloud platforms to solve some of these challenges. And application teams are able to select the environment, the platform that's going to be right for them. So maybe it's going to be proximity to the users in terms of the data. So an application might reside partially on the edge, partially in the public cloud. It may be that depending on the security disposition that's required of that application, whether that be through different types of compliance requirements or things like that application needs to reside on-prem or maybe needs to reside in a government cloud. And so in those cases, the application can reside there, and through these platform abstractions, we're still solving those challenges, be it observability or financial reporting, things like that, in a really consistent way. Again, that helps those application teams focus on what they do best, and that's solving the business challenges for the organization. So if we look across the transformational journey here, we have Cloud 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, right? Now, Cloud 1.0, as we talked about before, it was very low transformation. And again, this is a good place to start for organizations, and that there's nothing wrong with starting here, right? But the focus really is around cost reduction. And so in cost reduction, we're not really changing the business too much. We're just dropping in these new workloads, this new capabilities, new technology, and not worrying really about changing the rest of the business because we need to learn more about what the impact of that technology is going to be. Cloud 2.0 is sort of a blend of these two concepts of cost and value. And so, but the challenge here again is that we're doing it in a really inefficient way. So each individual application may be running very effectively, and the hosting costs may be quite low, but organizationally, it's a real challenge to support various applications in a Cloud 2.0 stance. Cloud 3.0 is really much more about value delivery. Now, we're still getting a lot of that cost reduction because we're able to take advantage of the cloud native dispositions and things like that we've already built up on, the foundational, Cloud 1.0, Cloud 2.0 types of capabilities. But now we're doing it in a much more effective manner across the entire enterprise, right? So if we take those learnings, right, and look at the kind of three stages of delivery or of maturity and how that works, moving from cost reduction to value delivery, I'm going to take this and turn it on its head a little bit and start to look at how our AI journey is really, or how the cloud journey really reflects the journey through AI, right? And so with ChatGPT being the most recent impactful technology that we're starting to look at and figure out how to adopt and how it's going to really transform our business, we can look at how the lessons that we've learned in adoption of cloud and really start to look at how that's going to change and what that maturity is going to look like for how we adopt AI. So in the earliest stages, we're looking at workload replacement, where we're looking at maybe various various applications. In this case, we're looking at, for example, a call center, right? So we have a SaaS application that customers use, and that application is also then supported by a call center in case the customers have any kind of challenges. Now, that call center uses case management software, uses search on a knowledge base to be able to help solve customers' challenges. And so what we're seeing now in terms of use cases tends to be more of a drop-in replacement. So rather than our customers needing to call into a call center, we're exposing them to a chatbot that's backed by a generative AI model like GPT or something like that, right? And so what we're seeing here, again, is very low transformative requirements, right? So it's still all of those capabilities are still kept in place. It's just now, instead of calling a call center, customers might be reaching out to this kind of chatbot to see if the chatbot can solve their issues through the knowledge base, right? So in the next phase here, we really look at how these AI features can really be baked into an application. And I call this feature augmentation, where applications start to embed AI as features into the application itself, right? So maybe rather than having a separate chatbot application, that chatbot is now baked into the API, or I'm sorry, into the customer application, and the customer is able to open up new cases for support straight through the application itself, right? So this is a big piece of helping customers get information and get real-time help in their application as they're using the application. So that's super innovative, right? But if we also look at the other areas in terms of case management and our search capabilities, right? Now we're also using AI and cognitive search to be able to make life better for our call center staff at the same time, right? Now, the challenge here is really, again, is very similar to what we saw in Cloud 2.0, where this works really well, right? And it's very innovative, but we're starting to see that the developers for the SaaS application are going to solve those challenges in embedding AI into their application in a very bespoke way, right? And it's going to be very different than the way that the folks from the case management software are going to embed AI into their application, and the way that we're going to implement cognitive search and all the challenges there through the machine learning lifecycle and AI lifecycle, through securing those models and the data, and making sure that we don't get poisoned data and poisoned models through some sort of bad actors coming in and getting the wrong kind of access into the systems. So all of these things are being solved in a very unique way and across each of these individual applications. And so what we want to try to do is shift that conversation from this each individual team looking at implementing AI to something more like this, where we have a AI center of excellence in our team, right? That is building their AIs and cultivating those capabilities in a centralized fashion, and then exposing those capabilities up through the applications, right? And that want to use them. And so in this way, application teams don't need to worry about all of the security, the monitoring of the AI models that they're using. That's all handled through that AI center of excellence team. And now the application teams are able to use those services, those AI services, directly within their applications, and be enabled to provide better value to their customers at the same time, right? And so if you look at now, our call center is transitioning from, certainly they're taking live calls probably and things like that, but they're shifting more to doing the kinds of account management, the higher value activities that we want them to be doing with their customers, right? And so giving the customers a white glove approach to handling their issues with the application, and really helping drive deeper value with those customers and better stickiness with those applications. Now, the other side of things is on the data end of things, where we look at the different types of data that we have, right? And before, we may have had four data sources, and now we've actually embedded a fifth one, application telemetry. The shift here also is that we're looking at this data fabric layer, and what data fabric is really meant to do is to look at the way that we provide access to all of our data sources and federate that access as needed, right, in a very secure way. And we're making sure that our data sources, the owners of that data, are cultivating that data and looking at data as a product, right? So again, we see this shift from the kind of drop-in workload replacement model, where it was looking more at cost, driving down cost and things like that, to this model now where we're looking at things as a product, and we're really measuring the value that we're being able to deliver to the organization. So injecting this kind of data fabric, sort of mentality, data as a service mentality within the organization is really transformative in a way that then enables us to do the kinds of enterprise AI and centers of excellence that will be required to really transform the business and make the most use of our AI and AI features. So again, looking at this from the transformational journey, right? We have workload replacement, and really that's more about cost reduction. The feature augmentation is the next sort of logical evolution in that journey. But the challenges there are, again, very bespoke implementations and things like that. Support becomes a real challenge. And so it's really only through true enterprise transformation that we're able to shift the conversation from looking at purely about cost and the challenges there to really being able to measure the value and shifting over to a value-driven story rather than purely cost. So some success stories, areas where Insight has been able to help our customers start down this journey and through a number of different domains and technologies. So the first story that I want to share is again based on that cloud journey story. So we had one client here that had, again, they were in a cloud 2.0 disposition. They had hundreds of credentials, and the security for their applications was very distributed and was sort of uncontrolled assets. It was a phrase that they were using a lot, and they were able to shift the conversation from having their application teams deliver everything from top to bottom, each application in a very bespoke way, totally separate from other applications that were doing hitting similar types of challenges, to one where they were able to abstract away a lot of those details and connectivity and really enable those teams to do much more rapid delivery of their applications because they had less to worry about, right? So application teams, their applications were still secured through the platform, secured through proper governance and things like that. Those teams were still doing the proper types of continuous integration and continuous delivery of those workloads and those applications, but they were doing it through this centralized platform that then the centralized platform that was supported by the rest of the organization. So supported by those security teams, by those access management teams, those teams that were delivering and cultivating the internal developer platforms that these workloads were being developed on. And so that helped them not only rapidly be able to control the security and connectivity, the governance of their applications, but also much more rapidly enable the delivery of new functionality into the business and to their customers. So the next story here is one of my favorites. I was involved in this a couple of years back, and this one, Vivli, is an organization that was looking to take clinical data and federate that clinical data to researchers who needed access to that data, right? And so if you think about all of the challenges there between all of the HIPAA regulations, getting access to pharmaceutical companies' data and getting them willing to share their data with other researchers who were then going to be able to develop drugs and learn from their clinical trial data. This was a very innovative platform that Vivli was looking at doing. And so they had a number of sponsors that were helping them get started through this journey. And so this story is really actually about the kind of most recent modernization efforts that we took them through with their application, right? So this application is more than 7 years old now. And you can imagine that over that time period, the cloud has significantly evolved, and new technologies have come out in that time that really changed the game in terms of application development. And so what we worked with Vivly to do is to figure out ways that we can structure the teams to best use the assets available to them, the funding available to them, to then change the way that they were implementing their security protocols, modernize their user interface, and update the workflows that would help broker the request of access from those researchers to the pharmaceutical companies that owned that data, right? And make sure that the researchers were doing the right thing, and we're going to be using the data in the right way, and ultimately provide the right levels of auditability and things like that for getting that data requested. And ultimately, it had a very a large impact in terms of their overall operations and in terms of the growth of their platform. And so now their platform can support a lot more data, a very efficient way of brokering out that data to the appropriate users that were on the platform, as well as then reducing internal operations around reporting and all of the kind of compliance regulations that they had to follow in order to maintain a platform like this. And as well as this modernization process was happening during the pandemic, during COVID-19. So you can imagine how much focus there was on making sure that this platform was able to handle all of the challenges around making sure that we had the right kind of researchers available, that had the right kind of access to the right kind of data to be able to innovate on developing new forms of treatments and things like that. Our next story is around another one of my favorites, where we were able to take a lot of the data from this tech manufacturer, right? They were developing hundreds of thousands of unique products, and some of those products, there was a lot of complexity in their product lines, right? So certain products would work with other products, but not with other lines, with different lines of products, right? And so the challenge of finding products that were for their internal sales teams and things like that, products that were that would work well together was pretty high. And so their ability to then upsell customers on, hey, you bought part A, part B works really well with part A, and it looks like based on the products that you're purchasing, this might fit really well with the types of things that you're trying to do. So that kind of recommendation engine. So Insight came in and we started by focusing on the data, right? We developed a modern data warehouse that through our Insight's IP called Lens. And we were then able to take that data, centralize it, and develop these semantic data models that were then able to drive a lot more innovation and a lot better access to that data, make the data transformed into true insights for their organization. Then the next step that we did was to take a lot of that data and then pull it into machine learning models and AI recommendation engine that then we were able to surface up into their CRM system that would help provide their customers and their sales teams with those kinds of recommendations. And you can see the outcomes here, an increase in their sales pipeline of over $15 million, right? So this, the ROI this was a relatively small project that we did. It didn't cost a fortune, but just by implementing some true data governance and through this IP that Insight has, and developing these AI models to then drive additional value through increased sales pipeline was really transformative for this organization. So with all that looked at, where do we want to start with driving innovation in your organization, right? So the first kind of recommendation here is to create a plan. We talked about that at the start, how, innovation really needs to be planned. We need to understand what our core capabilities are, where we want to drive innovation, right? Resources are limited. And so we want to make sure that we're not just innovating everywhere, but we're innovating in the areas that we are want to differentiate ourselves, differentiate our business from our competitors, right? And so that's where we're going to do most of our heavy investment. And then we're going to organize our innovation efforts, create a set of metrics that for things that we want to do within our organization, right? And so the example here on the right is reduced cost and improved ability to deliver. Now, those are fairly high level, ambiguous sorts of metrics, but at the end of the day, we need to come up with a set of metrics that are going to help drive our business and figure out ways that we can create those kinds of tactics that are going to help us deliver, right? We want to create a future vision that is going to show us what success looks like, right? Now, this vision often is a couple of sentences around the types of things that we're trying to do, but ultimately that vision paints a picture for the rest of our organization for what success looks like, right? The next thing that we want to do is develop those. Again, we have our metrics now, but we need to be able to show what the impact is and not rely on anecdotal information to be able to say, oh yeah, that feels like it was successful, right? We want to actually know for sure that those innovations were successful and how they're measuring up to our originally stated goals. So we need to be able to produce reports that show what the impact is over time, right? So, as we're developing, innovations, we need to be able to show that, yes, this innovation actually helps reduce the cost of our overall application infrastructure. This innovation helped our developers deliver more rapidly. Now they're able to do deployments every week instead of every other week. Right. And so those sorts of changes and innovations can be, I use innovation as a really broad term for new things that we want to do. Right. And so that could be new technology that we want to implement. It could be changes and reorganizations in the way that we're managing our people, managing our processes. So and so that's really going to help us measure the impact in a much more objective fashion. Now, we shouldn't purely rely on that. The metrics are faulty, and anytime you start to measure something, people are going to emphasize those metrics and potentially to the detriment of the organization. So it's really important that we iterate on that and we make sure that we're ensuring that those metrics are properly incentivizing people to do the right thing, right? And try to achieve that future vision. That's why we need both of those things, a vision that helps paint the direction and the future for where we're trying to go, as well as those metrics, right? And then, looking at this, once you know where you are and where you want to go, it's not possible really to have a one shot and you achieve your vision, right? And so understanding what a phased approach might be, right? What's the easiest thing to do now? Take that first step. How did that impact your metrics? And then rinse and repeat, right? And so you want to at least have some sense of where you're going, right? So you're not just planning one phase ahead, maybe you're planning 2 or 3. But at the end of the day, it's really important that you have kind of a phased approach where each milestone feels achievable, right? It feels like this is something that you can do and that you can achieve within the next 6 months, within the next year, so that you're not losing sight of what your future vision is and why you're doing this. And then the last thing we talked a little bit about before, but make sure that you're regularly evaluating where you're going. And is it still relevant? Are based on changes to the economy, changes to the competition in the market, new technologies that have come out. Is the vision real? Is the vision still impactful to your organization? Is that something that you want to do? Are these metrics still the right way to measure our attainment of that future vision, or is there something else that may be more beneficial? Is the journey, that roadmap that we've outlined, the best way to go about this. And so these kind of evaluations, regular evaluations, happen in cycles, right? The more ambiguous that that goal that you have, the less often you're going to evaluate it, and you're going to look to evaluate some of those more tangible things more rapidly, right? But as you start to evaluate and do these rounds of evaluation, you need to then periodically come back to those higher level, higher order goals, higher order visions to make sure that they're still achievable. So the second point here is just to make sure that you don't forget your mission. Now, why do I have a chessboard here? I'm a chess buff. I really I enjoy the game of chess. It's something that I learned to play as a kid, and now I'm not a grandmaster or even a master, but I do enjoy a good game of chess. And this one scenario that I was playing a game years now, and with any game of chess, you're developing strategies as you go, as you're in sort of competition with your opponent, and these strategies can really help to drive future decisions on how you're going to try to win the game, right? Try to beat your opponent, outmaneuver them in different ways. So one of my strategies in this particular game was to try to get the pawn to the last row and convert that pawn to a king. Now, if you're familiar with chess, you're familiar that this is a tactic that will often result in victory, right? Having two queens or having assuming you're about neck and neck, if you have a queen and your opponent has a queen, or neither of you do, having one more queen on the board than your opponent is a significant leg up on your opponent. And so I over-indexed on getting that pawn into the last row, and I was doing things that maybe were I wasn't seeing other types of opportunities that I had to make sure that I was getting the king. And so at one point during the game, during this series of moves, it sort of hit me that, like, no, actually my goal isn't to get the pawn to the last row. My goal is to take the king, right, and put the king in check, and keep the opponent on their heels, defending their king, so that they can't do things like maybe attack my pawn or do things that they want to do to try to win the game. And so in doing that, I started to realize that, like, no, actually, I need to reevaluate what my strategy is in order to accomplish my ultimate mission. And so what I then came to was actually a much better move, right? I moved my rook over, and I pinned the queen and attacked the king all at the same time. And in doing so I was afraid of doing this initially because I was like, I'm going to lose my pawn, and I'm going to lose the strategy that I've been playing, trying to achieve all this time. And in doing so, in sort of sacrificing that strategy and adopting a new strategy, I actually even saved my pawn. Ultimately, I was able to move my pawn to the last row, convert it to a queen, and ultimately win the game. And it was all through, again, reevaluating what my mission was and why I was doing it. So, and that, again, following on our point one here, make sure that you have a vision, make sure that you're disseminating that into goals, and then you're understanding what the tactics are. And every one of those lines, those delineations that you start to break things down from your vision to your goals, you need to make sure that they're correlated, right? In order to revitalize the product business and reduce waste, I want to reduce my hosting costs, right? And as long as you can continually say, yes, as long as I can focus on reducing my hosting costs, that I will be contributing to this ultimate vision, then maybe that's a good approach. The other thing that we want to make sure of is that there's not a better focus for us to look at, right? So maybe we've already, at a high level, continuing to reduce hosting costs may be really, an effective thing, but maybe we've started to hit the diminishing returns where increasing our investment in trying to reduce our hosting costs is not really going to provide the best return on our investment, right? And maybe a better approach is to look at how we can drive more value and shift, to the opposite side of that coin in terms of, from the cost value perspective, right? So making sure that you don't forget your mission and that you're regularly doing the kinds of planning and reevaluation that you need to is super critical to making sure that you're successful throughout your innovation journey. And then the last sort of getting started tip here is making sure that you're addressing the resistance to change. 95% of the time, the organizations that I work with struggle to really transform and really adopt the changes that that we want to make and that they want to make because they're finding resistance throughout their organization. Now, the wall of text here has a little blurb about fiefdoms, and it's kind of a well-known anti-pattern of organizational structures. And really, the big challenge here is in making sure that we're not being fear-driven and we're trying to reduce the fear throughout the organization, right? We want to make sure that people understand that their jobs are not going to go away through this transformation process. Their jobs may change. And we want to make sure that they're incentivized to accept that change, to look for that change and to adapt to the new skill sets that they need to learn, right? And so that the best way to do that is through leadership. There is no other, there's not any kind of technology or any kind of silver bullet here. This is all about driving conversations, making sure that the types of objectives that you want to drive within your organization are cascaded down through every team, and that if there are, because there will be leaders that within the organization that stand in the way, that's being addressed both from the bottom up and saying like, look, this is something that is going to be happening, and your role likely will be changing, and that's okay because you will land on your feet, right? The other and then the other approach is kind of more of a top-down approach where we're coming in and we're doing kind of a top-down reorg, right? And maybe breaking that team apart or whatever it is. And that latter one is a much more heavy-handed approach, but it's really one of the few ways that organizations really can break through these kinds of fiefdoms and things like that. There are other kinds of resistance to change that tend to be less systemic. And those need to be addressed as well, because even those less systemic issues can, even though they're not one large roadblock, it can just put a drag on the entire process when you have entire groups of people that are afraid of a certain type of change, right? So this is where we start to get into where Insight can help. And so each of those three, getting started points that I brought up, Insight has a lot of expertise around helping breakthrough. So our product and strategy organizations can help with putting together the strategy for how you might put in place your innovative organization, right? Our UX teams can help innovate and drive workshops and look at different ways that an organization and an application should be changing their application and changing their perspective to help address user problems and user challenges better. Our app development teams and our cloud teams can help do the proof and accelerate stages by helping scale out those teams and making sure that you have the skill sets that you need to in order to deliver, putting in place new tools for how you might accelerate the delivery of those features within an organization. And then our managed services team and our knowledge transfer and change and training team can help transition from, after our team has really scaled up and we want to maybe start to do a little bit more of a handoff, either to, again, our internal managed services team that can help support and make sure that the application is managed in a cost-effective way, through to the types of training and dissemination of information that we need to make sure that there's an effective handoff to your internal organizations. So why do you want to engage with Insight, right? Insight has the scale and the differentiated IP to be able to help organizations innovate, modernize, innovate, and deliver in a very agile and repeatable fashion, right? And so we have the capabilities, both breadth-wise in terms of the capabilities that we have, as well as the scale, the number of teammates, the size of our organization, able to help various organizations, various sizes, in delivering this kind of innovation, as well as the partnerships that we bring, right? So everyone from Microsoft, AWS, Google, HashiCorp, right? We have a lot of partnerships that we leverage to help bring the most value to our client organizations, right? Finding funding, getting the right kind of support from these kinds of organizations to help drive innovative solutions in a really cost-effective way. This slide shows a lot of our superpowers, right? The kind of areas that we talked about today are really around modern apps and data and AI, but we also have a lot of other services around modern infrastructure and things like that can help with a large breadth of types of problems and bringing solutions to our clients. So Insight, this slide shows how Insight is able to really scale to meet the needs of our clients, and we have a wealth of experience under our belts, as well as the size of our organization is really able to help organizations both large and small deliver their challenges and innovate. Okay, and so that brings our presentation to an end. If you're ready to take the next step with us, please scan the QR code, and that'll bring you to our Insight homepage, and you can sign up for our services there. Thank you very much.